My fiancé's ex showed up with photos and bank records that shatter his perfect image. Now my wedding and my trust are on the line. I always thought love meant knowing someone inside and out. No surprises, no secrets. My name is Naomi Bennett, and for 3 years I believed I knew Lucas Harding completely. Then, 2 weeks before our wedding, his past slapped me in the face, and I realized I'd built my future on a lie. It was a crisp Wednesday morning when the sleek black envelope arrived at our townhouse's front stoop. I didn't recognize the handwriting, just my name in elegant calligraphy. Curious, I slipped inside and ripped it open. Inside lay a leather folder stamped with a gold N. My heart pounded as I lifted the flap to reveal glossy photographs. Lucas with another woman, warm embraces by a lakeside cabin, whispered laughter under a moonlit pine. Beneath the photos lay printed spreadsheets, large sums of money traced through shell companies, deeds to property registered under unfamiliar names, and a typed letter dated 6 months ago signed Serena Monroe. My hands shook. Serena Monroe. Lucas had never mentioned her. He'd confided in me about childhood friends, his sister's wedding, and a brief college romance that fizzled out. But here was evidence of a far deeper attachment, an engagement, perhaps, or betrayal he'd hidden. The letter's opening line sent a cold wave through me. "I'm sorry it took so long to tell you the truth, but I can't let you go without knowing who I am." I sank to the doorstep, heart racing. Every memory of Lucas's gentle kindness, him tucking a loose strand of my hair behind my ear, surprise dinners on my birthday, late-night talks about our future, felt tainted. Had any of it been real? I barely noticed when Lucas came down the stairs. His broad shoulders filled the doorway. Concern clouded his emerald eyes. "Naomi, what's wrong?" he asked, reaching for my hand. I held up the folder. My voice broke. "Who is she?" His breath hitched. "Naomi, I can explain." But I wasn't ready for excuses. I only wanted truth. That afternoon, I met my best friend Talia Rodriguez at a quiet cafe. Steam curled from our mugs as I slid the folder across the table without a word. Talia flipped through the photos and documents, eyes widening. "Naomi, this is big," she whispered. "You need to confront him, but be careful. You don't know what else he's hiding." I nodded, guilt and fear warring inside me. "Our wedding is 2 weeks away. If he's kept this from me, what else?" She reached across and squeezed my hand. "Trust your instincts, and gather more evidence before you accuse him." Leaving the cafe, I felt like I'd been thrown into a churning river with no bank in sight. I needed answers, proof of Lucas's past and his motives. That evening, I told Lucas I wanted to review our guest list and vendor contracts. He smiled, unaware of my real agenda. After he left for the office the next morning, I crept into his study under the pretense of organizing wedding invitations. His desktop lay open, password protected, but his sticky note password, Lake House 123 inches, was still stuck to his monitor. My pulse thundered as I logged in. Under Documents, I found a folder named Serena. Inside, invoices for events at that same lakeside cabin, scanned pages of a joint lease agreement, and a heartfelt email thread between Lucas and Serena arguing about their future. One message read, "I love you, Naomi, but I need to finish what I started with Serena." My breath caught. He thought he loved me? Or he thought he owed an unfinished promise to Serena? I copied every file onto a flash drive, hands trembling. Suddenly, footsteps sounded on the staircase. I barely had time to shut Lucas's laptop before he appeared. His face drained. "Naomi, what are you doing?" he demanded, eyes flashing. I held up the drive. "Explain." He ran a hand through his hair, voice low. I was going to tell you. It's complicated." I stepped back, heart breaking and racing. "Then tell me now." He swallowed. "Serena was engaged to me. We got engaged after college. But she came from a wealthy family. Her parents disapproved. They manipulated facts, threatened legal action, and she broke it off. I thought I'd moved on, and I did until she resurfaced." I stared at him, disbelief and fury warring in my chest. "Until she resurfaced? And sent these to me?" He nodded, voice pained. "She wants me back. She's using evidence to coerce me. Unless I dissolve assets she claims are hers, she'll expose us and ruin you too." My breath came fast. This was blackmail, exactly like he'd threatened, but I was the one being punished. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay awake, replaying every moment of our relationship. Where had Serena fit in? When had Lucas lied? My future loomed uncertain. Marry a man shackled by his past or walk away from the fairy tale I'd planned. By dawn, I made my decision. I would uncover Serena's story and decide if Lucas's love was worth fighting for. But first, I had to gather the final piece of evidence, Serena's side of the story. Update 1. The sun was just peeking over the rooftops when I slipped out of the townhouse, flash drive heavy in my coat pocket. My destination was a cafe downtown, one of the few places with both strong Wi-Fi and harsh fluorescent lights, perfect for digging into Serena's side of the story. I hailed a rideshare, heart pounding as the city streets blurred past. When I arrived, Talia was already at our usual corner table, latte in hand and laptop open. She gave me a questioning look. "I have files," I said, dropping the flash drive beside her keyboard. "She's got emails, contracts, even recorded voicemails." Talia's eyebrows shot up. "Let's see." I handed her the drive. She plugged it in and opened a folder labeled S. Monroe. Inside were dated email chains. Lucas's college acceptance packages, Serena's acceptance of his proposal, followed by a torrent of frantic messages, threats from her parents, Lucas's reassurances, and then her final note. "I can't marry you under this pressure. I'm sorry, Lucas, goodbye." Below that lay a separate folder, coercion, an audio file, VM001.mp3. I clicked play on Talia's headphones. A trembling voice, Serena's, spoke. "Greater than Lucas. This is Serena. Please come home. I've done what they asked, but it's not enough. They're taking everything. Our house, my inheritance, your stake. If you proceed with Naomi, I'll have no choice but to expose our emails, the signed prenup, and the truth about your company accounts. I love you, but they own me, and they'll own you too." Talia paused the playback. "Naomi, this is blackmail." I pressed my palms into my eyes. "She thinks she's protecting herself, but she's hurting me. And Lucas." Talia looked up. "We need Serena's cooperation. Confront her, or find proof of who's really behind this. Her parents? Crosswell and Company? Someone else?" I nodded, resolve settling in. "I'll go see her. I just need to know who she is now." I left Talia with instructions to prepare copies of everything and headed towards Serena's last known address, a small apartment complex in a quiet neighborhood. My stomach churned. What would she say when confronted by the fiancé she was trying to destroy? The building hummed with afternoon quiet. I climbed the stairs to the second floor, heart pounding at every step. Outside 2B, I paused. A faint laugh drifted through the door's cracked frame. I knocked. The door opened to reveal a young woman in her late 20s. Tall, auburn hair pinned into a loose bun, eyes rimmed with red. She froze at the sight of me. "Serena?" I said softly. "Naomi Bennett." Recognition dawned. Panic in her gaze. "You're his fiancé." I nodded. "I want to understand. Why come back now?" She backed inside, closing the door. The apartment was stark. Bare walls, a single armchair, strewn files on a small table. She motioned me inside, hands trembling. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. "But they gave me no choice." She glanced at a stack of legal papers, Crosswell & Co.'s memorandum, and a letter from Serena's parents, threatening disinheritance if she refused their scheme. "There are real enemies," she said, voice quivering. "Crosswell approached them when Lucas invested in Beaumont Asset Holdings. They saw an opportunity to gain control, and Serena's birthright. They threatened my family's fortune if Lucas didn't funnel assets through shell accounts. I tried to resist, but they forced me to record messages, falsify contracts, threaten you and Lucas. I'm sorry." My breath caught. "So you were their pawn." She nodded, tears spilling. "They held my parents' wealth over me. I had to protect them. I softened. We can fight this together, but you must testify. We need you to admit in court that Croswell's men coerced you. Serena wept quietly. I'm scared for my family, but if it means freedom and saving Lucas, yes. I'll help. Back in my car, I called Marisol. I have Serena's cooperation. She'll provide testimony and the coercion letters. Marisol's relief was palpable. That tipped the scales. We'll amend our pleadings and include her evidence. Expect a revised hearing date. Stay safe. After hanging up, I exhaled deeply. The pieces were coming together. Lucas's ignorance of manipulation, Serena's coerced compliance, and Croswell's ruthless plot. I thought of our wedding day, now 2 weeks away. Still possible, if justice prevailed. When I returned to the townhouse, Lucas was waiting anxiously. I embraced him. She'll testify. We have her evidence. His green eyes glistened. Thank you. I kissed him, relief washing over me. We're not alone in this. But as I lay awake that night, sleep eluded me. Croswell's next move was anyone's guess. Yet with Serena's truth on our side, I finally felt the first stirrings of hope. Update 2. The revised hearing was scheduled a week later in the downtown courtroom. I arrived at dawn, nerves buzzing beneath my spine like electric currents. Lucas met me in the lobby, suit crisp, posture tense. Serena, pale but resolute, stood beside Marisol. I slipped Serena a reassuring smile. Her courage grounded me. Inside, the courtroom was hushed authority. Dark oak panels, sunbeams through high windows, reporters lining the back. The judge, a gray-haired woman with keen eyes, presided over the session. Marisol opened with a clear statement. Your Honor, we present new testimony and documents proving Miss Serena Monroe's coerced involvement. Croswell and company orchestrated a campaign of blackmail against the Beaumonts, using Ms. Monroe as a mouthpiece. We request immediate nullification of all related proxy documents and compensation for damages. Then came Serena's moment. She stood, voice wavering yet determined. Greater than I, Serena Monroe, testify that I was threatened by representatives connected to Croswell and company. They threatened my parents' inheritance unless I forced Mr. Lucas Harding into a shell agreement harming Beaumont Asset Holdings. I signed documents and sent messages under duress. I regret every word and am prepared to cooperate fully. A hush fell. I felt Lucas's hand find mine. Across the aisle, Damian Cross's lawyer surged to object, but Marisol presented the original threat letters, lawyers' memos, metadata tying the proxies to Croswell's server. Each exhibit landed like evidence in a criminal trial. The judge's brow furrowed with concern. Croswell's attorney tried to discredit Serena's credibility, dredging up her family's financial troubles and suggesting ulterior motives. Serena weathered the storm, reciting facts, refusing to waver. Her resolve struck me anew. This stranger had risked everything to set us free. After hours of testimony, the judge paused. Then, with a decisive nod, "Greater than judge, considering the totality of the evidence, coerced agreements, forged documents, and fraudulent messages, I rule in favor of the petitioners. All proxy transfers are void. Beaumont Asset Holdings retains full control, and Mr. Harding's name is cleared of any wrongdoing. The court also refers this matter for criminal prosecution of all individuals responsible for this extortion." A collective exhale swept through the courtroom. Reporters scribbled notes. Serena collapsed into Marisol's arms, tears of relief flowing freely. I hugged Lucas, my own tears warm against his suit. After the hearing, outside the courthouse, flashbulbs popped. A reporter called, "Ms. Bennett, did this victory change your view of Mr. Harding?" I paused, thinking of the trust forged in crisis. "Lucas and I faced the worst together," I said. "This truth saved our future and proved love isn't blind, it's honest." Rebuilding trust. In the weeks after the ruling, our lives shifted back toward normalcy, though nothing would ever be the same. Lucas and I sat down for long talks. No flights of fancy, only frank honesty. He answered every lingering question about Serena and Croswell. Each revelation deepened my understanding and, paradoxically, my love. One afternoon, we returned to the lakeside cabin, sight of so many photographs. Instead of tension, we found peace. Lucas held my hand. "I'm sorry I lied by omission," he said, voice husky. "But I love you now, without secrets." I smiled, tracing his palm with my thumb. "We're stronger for it." Wedding plans revisited. With the legal storm cleared, we refocused on the wedding. The venue, a rustic barn by the river, took shape with white string lights, wildflower arrangements, and wooden pews. Talia, my maid of honor, reveled in checklist progress. Invitations sent, caterer confirmed, DJ booked. Serena, free of coercion, offered to attend as a guest. We hesitated, but realized this was part of healing. She joined us for dress fittings, her eyes bright with new clarity. I thanked her privately. "Your bravery gave me a new life," I told her. She smiled shyly. "I'm grateful to be part of your story." Community forgiveness. Damian Cross's fall rippled through the finance world. Criminal charges followed. His empire crumbled. Beaumont Asset Holdings emerged, lauded for integrity, launching philanthropic initiatives in Crosswell's former neighborhoods. The community applauded Naomi and Lucas's commitment to transparency. Talia's childhood church invited me to speak about forgiveness and honesty, and I talked, hands clasped, about learning love in the crucible of truth. Wedding day. 2 weeks later, sunlight poured through barn doors as I stepped into my wedding dress, a simple lace gown that fluttered in the breeze. Lucas stood at the altar, radiant and tearful. Serena watched from the front row, clapping when Lucas offered her a hug of genuine thanks before our vows. When I walked down the aisle, my breath caught. 150 guests, wildflowers, sunshine, and the man who had risked everything for me. We said our vows. No grand speeches, just promises to love openly and honor truth. As we shared our first dance to a slow acoustic melody, I thought of every late-night drive, every folder of evidence, every moment of doubt. All had led here, not to a fairy tale, but to a real-life love, forged in adversity. Update 3. The morning after our wedding dawned clear and golden. I woke in our cozy lake house, Lucas asleep beside me under a tangle of white sheets. The world felt tender, new, unburdened by conspiracy or fear. But healing isn't a single step. It's a marathon of small moments. Over breakfast on the porch, we watched swans glide across the glassy water. I turned to Lucas. "What's next? For us. And for Serena." He sipped coffee. "I've offered her a position managing our charity fund. She deserves a fresh start without corporate vultures." I nodded. Serena's presence at the wedding had been a brave reconciliation. Now she needed stability. Serena's new chapter. That afternoon, Serena arrived at the lake house with a duffel bag and cautious optimism. She stepped onto the dock, bare feet on weathered wood. "I accepted," she said quietly. "If I can help you, help me. I'll do it." We embraced, and I saw relief in her eyes, a long road ahead, but less lonely. Together, the three of us drafted her job description, auditing donations, organizing community workshops, and liaising with volunteers. She lit up at the assignments. For the first time in months, I saw Serena smile without fear. A new office. We converted Lucas's home office into a bright charity headquarters. Pale blue walls, white desks, inspirational quotes etched in vinyl. A wall-mounted shelving unit held binders labeled Scholarship Fund, Literacy Program, and Financial Aid. Serena unpacked personal items, family photos, a small potted fern, to make it her own. Marisol visited to advise on nonprofit compliance. Over tea in the sunlit room, she praised our progress. "You've turned a crisis into opportunity," Marisol said. "This foundation will do good for years." I realized how far we'd come. From hidden threats in mahogany studies to open collaboration in sunlit offices, community workshops. By midweek, Serena led the first workshop for adults needing budgeting skills. I watched as she guided participants through worksheets on tracking expenses and reducing debt. Lucas popped in to greet attendees, bank managers and local pastors, all pleased with the fresh program. Afterward, an elderly woman named Mrs. Jenkins hugged Serena. "Thank you for giving me hope," she said. "I feel in control for the first time." I felt tears prickle my eyes. This was impact beyond profit margins. Real lives changed. Lucas's corporate reforms. Meanwhile, Lucas championed reforms at Beaumont Asset Holdings. At the quarterly board meeting, he presented a transparency initiative, annual public reports on charitable spending, ethics training for executives, and strict anti-coercion policies. The board approved unanimously, even awarding Lucas Executive of the Year for his integrity. I watched him accept the plaque, grateful, modest. My heart swelled. The man I married wasn't just charming, he was courageous, building family bridges. That weekend, we hosted a small celebration at the lake house. Talia and her husband, Marisol and her partner, Serena's parents, and close friends. We feasted on grilled vegetables, fresh fish, and homemade pies. Laughter echoed under string lights. Serena's parents approached me quietly. Mrs. Monroe took my hand. "Thank you for not hating her," she said. "We failed her. You and Lucas saved her future." I squeezed her hand. "We all make mistakes. What matters is who you choose to become next." Her husband nodded, tears shining. "We're proud of her, and of you." A quiet reflection. That night, Lucas and I sat by the lake, the moon reflecting blue across the water. He wrapped an arm around me. "I thought our wedding would solve everything," he admitted. "But I see now the work continues. Healing scars, rebuilding trust, and helping others." I rested my head on his shoulder. "This is our life's work, love and service. And I wouldn't have it any other way." We watched ripples fade in the moonlight, grateful for second chances. Charity Gala. A month later, the Beaumont Foundation's inaugural Charity Gala shimmered in a downtown hotel ballroom. Serena greeted guests. Lucas welcomed sponsors. I delivered a short speech on the power of redemption. Greater than tonight, we celebrate not wealth, but generosity. Our journey taught us that truth and compassion can break chains. May this foundation stand as a beacon for those seeking hope. Applause followed, and we mingled with local leaders, artists, and beneficiaries. Serena glowed beside us. The room felt alive with promise. Unexpected news. Just as the gala wound down, Marisol pulled me aside. Her expression was serious. "Celeste, sorry Naomi, news arrived this afternoon. The federal prosecutors linked Crosswell and Company to a broader crime syndicate. Damian Cross isn't just facing extortion charges. There's evidence of money laundering and racketeering. They want your testimony again." My breath caught. Another chapter. But this time, Serena and Lucas stood beside me, unwavering. I squared my shoulders. Then, I'll stand again. That night, as I lay in my wedding night bed, a memory of where love triumphed over deceit, I realized this story of betrayal and redemption would continue, but we were ready. We had each other, Serena's newfound purpose, and Marisol's steady counsel, and above all, the conviction that truth, once spoken, could never be silenced. Update 4. The call from Marisol came just as autumn leaves began to carpet the drive leading to our lake house. I was arranging thank you notes for gala donors when my phone buzzed. "Naomi, big development. FBI now wants you in D.C. to testify against Crosswell & Co.'s senior officers. Your testimony could open a racketeering case. Are you available next week?" Marisol's voice crackled with urgency. I stared at the foliage swirling outside my window, heart jolting. The idea of facing federal agents and hostile lawyers in a high-security environment both terrified and steeled me. Every past courtroom triumph had prepared me, but this was larger, a criminal probe that could seal Damian Cross's fate and dismantle the syndicate behind him. "I'll do it," I managed, voice firm. "When?" "Tuesday. I'll coordinate logistics. You'll fly privately to D.C., stay on Uber Lane, and we'll conduct prep sessions tonight." I exhaled. "Thank you." The phone clicked off, leaving me alone with excitement and dread. Preparing for Washington. That evening, Marisol, Lucas, and I gathered in our lake house study, an airy room lined with shelves of Hemingway and financial law tomes. A large map of the East Coast was pinned to the wall, dotted with Crosswell offices and Shell Corporation branches. I've secured clearance for this to proceed as a federal investigation, Marisol explained, spreading documents across the desk. Tuesday morning, we'll fly out. You'll testify before a grand jury, then at follow-up depositions. They want you to explain Serena's coercion audio, the metadata you uncovered, and the path of laundered funds. My fingers grazed the recordings and spreadsheets, evidence that had first drawn me into this conflict. Now it would take down a network of corruption thousands of miles from our home. Lucas stood by my side, hand on my shoulder. "I'll be in D.C. with you," he said quietly. I swallowed. "I don't want you in the grand jury room." His eyes darkened with concern. "But I'd feel safer having you there." Marisol nodded. "Security will be tight, but having your husband present won't hurt. Let's plan for that once we see the schedule." We spent the next 2 days in intensive preparation. Mock examinations, briefing books on RICO statutes, and stress interviews to steel me against Crosswell's attorneys. Serena joined us for moral support, her expression resolute as she listened to lines of questioning and offered insights from her own ordeal. By Monday night, suitcases stood ready by the front door. I packed my wedding dress, oddly fitting for the journey ahead, and a change of clothes for depositions. As I zipped my bag, Lucas embraced me. "You've saved us once. Now let's finish this." I nodded, tears pricking. Together. Testifying before the grand jury. At dawn Tuesday, a black SUV collected us at the lake house. The drive to the private airstrip was silent. Autumn's chill turned breath into mist. A charter jet waited, its engines humming readiness. We landed in D.C., where security agents in dark suits guided us through corridors of marble and glass. The U.S. District Courthouse loomed, flags snapping overhead. Inside, we passed through scanners and metal detectors until we entered a dimly lit hallway lined with sealed doors. Marisol whispered, "Here we go." We stepped into the grand jury room, a sober chamber filled with 12 jury members, a clerk, and federal prosecutors. The U-shaped table offset from the witness stand created an almost ceremonial atmosphere. When my turn came, I rose and took the oath. The first question from the chief prosecutor was measured. "Ms. Bennett, please recount the circumstances under which you first discovered evidence of Crosswell & Co.'s illegal activities." I steadied my breath and described the leather folder on my stoop, the hidden files in Lucas's study, and my midnight raid on Crosswell's server with Marisol's help. The jurors listened intently. I felt their gaze probing for truth. Next, they played Serena's voicemail recording, the tremulous plea for Lucas under duress. The room held its breath as her voice echoed. Then, documents displaying the money trail. Shell corporations funneling bribes into political PACs, shadow accounts facilitating extortion. During cross-examination, an FBI agent gently asked, "Ms. Bennett, did you ever benefit financially from exposing these crimes?" I shook my head. No. My only concern was saving my husband and preserving Beaumont's integrity. They probed details, timeline consistency, my role in copying files, and interactions with Serena. I answered calmly, anchored by preparation and conviction. After hours of testimony, the prosecutor thanked me. I stepped down, pressing Lucas's hand as we left the room. Justice at this level felt momentous. A culmination of our family's ordeal galvanizing federal action. Laundering exposed. Over the next 2 days, I also participated in sealed depositions of Crosswell's CFO and senior managers. Confronting them meant sifting through financial ledgers and watching them squirm when metadata proved their complicity. One deposition stood out. Crosswell's former compliance officer, Emily Yates, a gray-haired woman in her 50s, broke under questioning. Marisol's prepared questions and the damning evidence forced Emily to admit she'd shredded compliance memos on orders from Crosswell executives. Her admission cracked the command chain, implicating Damian Cross at the top. I left the hotel meeting room shaken yet exhilarated. Our pursuit of truth had unraveled a criminal enterprise spanning 2 states. Return home. By Friday, the grand jury voted to indict Damian Cross, his CFO, and several board members for racketeering, money laundering, and extortion. The federal press release highlighted my testimony as critical evidence. Lucas and Serena joined me on the private flight home, quiet relief in every shared glance. We landed as the sun set over the lake, painting the sky in hues of hope. Back at our lake house, Serena offered a toast with sparkling cider in the living room. Lucas raised his glass. To Naomi, the fiercest truth-seeker I know. I felt warmth flood my chest. To Justice, a new beginning. Within weeks, Beaumont Foundation's work expanded. The foundation sponsored research on corporate ethics, partnered with universities to develop anti-corruption curricula, and funded internships in regulatory agencies. Serena's leadership spearheaded a new initiative, Truth in Finance, offering pro bono legal aid to whistleblowers. Lucas resumed his role steering Beaumont Asset Holdings, instituting the toughest compliance protocols in the region. At a staff town hall, he announced, "Greater than, we vow to lead not only in profits but in principles. Integrity isn't optional, it's our lifeblood." The applause rattled through the auditorium. Employees who once feared change now embraced a culture of transparency. Personal growth. At home, life settled into a new rhythm. Autumn turned to winter, and we decorated our lake house for the holidays. Serena visited regularly, wrapping me in grateful hugs. Talia and Marisol joined for festive dinners, laughter echoing under cedar beams. One snowy evening, I found Lucas building a snowman by the dock. I wrapped him in blankets and joined him. As we pressed coal buttons into the icy figure, he turned to me. "You've given me a gift beyond measure, your courage, your love. I want to spend my life honoring that gift." He pulled a small box from his pocket. It contained a simple band engraved with our wedding date. "Will you wear this as a symbol of our shared journey?" Tears glittered as I accepted. "Always." Update 5. Winter melted into early spring as our lives settled into a new normal, one fortified by truth and shared purpose. Lucas and I woke each morning to the soft lapping of lake waves outside our bedroom window. Serena's office door down the hall stood open, warm lamplight spilling into the corridor as she drafted Truth in Finance educational materials. The Beaumont Foundation buzzed with activity. Interns from all backgrounds arrived weekly, eager to learn ethical finance. One Saturday, I joined Serena for her first whistleblower workshop at the Foundation's headquarters. The room overflowed with men and women in business attire, all seeking guidance on navigating corporate wrongdoing. Serena spoke with quiet authority. "Greater than sharing your story can feel like standing alone in a storm. But when truth prevails, it reshapes industries and protects the innocent. We're here to support you." I watched from the back, pride swelling. She had transformed from pawn to pioneer, proof that even coerced beginnings could lead to powerful change. A surprise visit. That afternoon, a knock sounded at our lake house door. I opened it to find Helena Beaumont, carrying a rustic bouquet of spring flowers. She stepped inside, eyes bright. "I wanted to thank you both personally," she said, handing me the blooms. "Beaumont Asset Holdings is donating seed funding to launch scholarship grants in your honor, the Naomi and Lucas Harding Scholarship for Integrity." Tears filled my eyes. "I'm honored." She squeezed my hand. "Your actions saved more than a company. They saved countless futures." Family ties. As spring days lengthened, Lucas received a call from his sister, Evelyn Harding, who lived abroad. She'd followed the news of Croswell's downfall and wanted to reconnect. Evelyn arrived with her teenage son Daniel, who had dreams of studying economics but lacked resources. We invited them to stay at the lake house, eager to bridge years of distance. Over dinner, Evelyn asked, "Lucas, tell me how you got through this." He shared our story, my discovery of the folder, Serena's revelation, the court battles, and Washington testimony. Daniel listened raptly, then said quietly, "I want to do what you did. Stand up for what's right." I squeezed Daniel's hand. "You can. Start by telling the truth, no matter the cost." Rekindling marriage. With our combined families under one roof, Lucas and I found time to deepen our bond. Late at night, we walked the dock in silence, watching stars flicker overhead. One evening, he stopped and faced me. "I've been thinking. We fought so much together. I want us to grow personally and professionally as partners." I smiled. "I'm with you." He reached inside his jacket and pulled out a blank journal. On the cover were our initials etched, N&L 2025. I want us to journal our journey, every success, setback, and learning. A record of our commitment to each other and our values. I pressed my finger to the cover. "I love it. Let's fill it." A new threat emerges. Just as we felt fully at peace, Headlines flashed of a whistleblower in a rival firm under threat. The pattern, anonymous threats, forged evidence, mirrored our own ordeal. Serena's face hardened as she read the article. "They're copying Croswell's playbook," she said. "We need to offer legal aid and sanctuary quickly." Within hours, the Foundation mobilized a rapid response team, legal counsel, IT forensics, and emergency housing in safe locations. We flew to the city where the whistleblower lived, coordinating with local advocates to secure a secure refuge. I marveled at how our trauma had become a force for protection. At a late-night meeting in a private basement suite, the whistleblower, Ravi Patel, a quiet data analyst, spoke, tears in his eyes. Greater than, I couldn't stay silent after seeing millions of dollars funneled into shell accounts. I had evidence of environmental violations and bribery. Then they started showing up at my apartment. Serena placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did the right thing. We'll keep you safe and get your evidence to the right authorities." I thought, this was the true measure of our journey. Not just restoring what was lost, but empowering others to break chains of corruption, legacy secured. Summer arrived with sunflower fields blanketing the meadows beyond our lake. We hosted the inaugural scholarship ceremony under a white tent by the water. 12 recipients, students of diverse backgrounds, received checks and mentorship packages. Daniel Harding, now 17, spoke eloquently about ethics and economics, crediting our story as his inspiration. As Lucas and I walked among the tables, an older gentleman approached. He introduced himself as Robert Chase, a retired journalist who'd covered Croswell's unraveling. He handed me a folded newspaper clipping, a 1985 article of young Damian Cross under investigation for early fraudulent schemes, long buried. He urged me to consider publishing our complete story, to warn future generations. I tucked the clipping into my journal. "Thank you, we will. Final wedding anniversary." That fall, exactly 1 year after our wedding, we returned to the oak tree where Lucas had proposed. The leaves blazed in crimson and gold. We exchanged renewed vows, words soft but profound. Greater than Lucas. I promise to stand by truth, even when it's hard, as you did for me. Greater than Naomi. I promise to listen, forgive, and face life's storms with you by my side. We sealed our promises with a kiss, the oak's branches whispering overhead. Months later, I returned to the Beaumont study, now my shared office, closing my journal after writing this final entry. Greater than when my fiancé's ex came back with evidence, I feared love would break. Instead, truth rebuilt trust, forged new purpose, and inspired others. Our story reminds us that integrity is stronger than deceit, and courage ripples outward to reshape the world. I set the journal on Lucas's desk, then stepped outside into the summer sunlight. Serena greeted me with a wave from the Foundation's offices across the lawn. As I walked toward her, I realized this story, once about a single betrayal, had become something far greater, a testament to honesty, resilience, and the power of shared conviction. Naomi's journey reveals that the hardest truths can bind us together and ignite change far beyond ourselves. When have you risked everything to stand for what's right? Share your story below. I read every comment,